Welcome to the Grit Behind the Grind podcast, where we dive deep into raw, unfiltered journey of entrepreneurship, fitness, mental health, and building businesses from the ground up. I'm Eric Rowell, co-founder of Grit and Grind Coffee, real estate developer, fitness enthusiast, dad, and husband.
And I'm Destiny Rowell, co-founder of Grit and Grind Coffee, creative, brand strategist, and above all, mom and wife, bringing you real talk on what it takes to thrive as a business owner, especially when you're doing it alongside your partner. Here, we don't just focus on the wins. We dig deep into the struggles, the sacrifices, and the daily grind that it takes to make it all possible. So tune in, subscribe, and get ready to uncover the grit behind the grind.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Grit Behind the Grind podcast. I'm Eric Rowell, your host, and I am excited to come to you today with my friend Chris Connors. Chris and me have actually been doing business together for a little over a year. So, Chris, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you, Eric, man. It was pumped to be here, and I so appreciate you giving me the invite and opportunity to join you. My background is in the franchise business, and originally I'm from the Chicago area. Grew up there, and then went to work for a company that did franchising. So one of the first brands that I worked with was Jimmy John's, European Wax Center, Ace Hardware, Auntie Anne's. A couple of brands ended up becoming big franchise systems, so I got to experience it. Worked for that company for 8 years, and then I started my own company, FMS, Franchise Marketing Systems, in 2009 in Atlanta. So I love what I do. I'm one of those people that just so thankful every day to be able to work with entrepreneurs, with small business owners, small mid-sized business owners, help them figure out how to grow, lay out a path for them, and give them a vehicle to take their business model to the next level. So it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I love that. What I've learned about franchising is it's like an onion. You pull back a layer and there's a whole new world. I think it's really cool because you back up, like, I don't know, when did we come to you? It was maybe like a year ago when we started franchising. We didn't know what we didn't know. I went to ChatGPT. I was like, how do you create a contract, for licensing and this and that? And then, I think I found a video of you on YouTube or something because, today's age, that's all we do. Like, it's either a podcast or a YouTube video. That's where we're going to learn, So now it's been really great, man.
You played hard to get for a while. I think we first spoke like 2 years ago, and I'm sure you hear this a lot, but you've got such a cool brand. You've got such high energy. You're one of those people that and Anthony was the first guy on our team who talked to you, but you're one of those people where it's like, man, we need to work with you. We need to start working with this guy. He's got something that'll go. So we talked for a while about it, and you always had stuff going on. You're opening up new locations, and again, it's like, man, those are the people that we want to talk to, who are driven, high energy, have a vision, and man, you didn't disappoint. You've done an insane job in taking this to market, selling the vision, selling the opportunity, and duplicating this. I think sky's the limit for where you can take Grit and Grind, and I'm just so thankful that I could be a part of it and get to work with you. It's been awesome.
I'm gonna let you in on a little secret, and that is, I played hard to get because I thought I could do it all on my own. You know what I mean? So like I said, ChatGPT was my best friend. And I feel like we live in a day and age where information is vast. You know what I mean? Like, I can learn anything on the internet. It's just how much time do I want to allocate to that? And it really hit home whenever I heard somebody say, yeah, you can go build what I built, but it's going to take you 3 years and $250,000. Like, when people come and buy into Grit and Grind, it's like, you can do the same thing that I did, but do you want to start today, or do you want to start 3 years from now? And how much capital do you want to invest? And until that, lesson kind of struck home, I was like, man, I wish I would have got with FMS and, Anthony probably a year before this. I'd have saved so much time, dude. Yeah.
Well, when that kind of discussion comes up, and I can't remember if I said this to you or not, but I've said it to others, where it's the same presentation when you start presenting your franchise model. You are certainly smart enough and have the ability and could figure this out without having anybody's help. And the same is true for most franchise owners. They could open up their own coffee business. They could start their own brand. They could do things. But the value of having someone who's been through it is that it shortens the learning curve, helps you skip some of the the hiccups and mistakes, and it lays out a path. But man, you've run with it. It takes a unique entrepreneur to do this as quickly and efficiently as you have. I've done this for 25 years, and there's very few, maybe 1% of entrepreneurs who just get it, and they're empowered. They're accountable. They jump into it. They look at franchisees like they're partners, and they manage their money as if it's their own money. You're doing all the right things, and I think the caliber of people that you brought in, the quality of the brand, the way that you're scaling this online, social media, it's like, man, every checkbox that I would hope you would do, you've done, and most of it you've done without me even like saying do this. Just you're doing it. So it's been awesome. And again, I think this is going to be a home run brand. I think you will be one of the next big up and coming coffee systems that'll hit the market nationally here in the next couple of years.
Yeah, I appreciate that, man. I definitely have those visions and goal. And it's just great to, you know, put your head down and grind and then get validation from other people to say, you know, that hard work that you have been doing, that 18 hours that you've been putting in, all of that grinding is definitely going noticed. Right. So I appreciate that, man. But for some of our listeners that are kind of like thinking, hey, what is franchising? Like I look at it as a tool, but you know what I mean? What do you think? What are some advice that you can tell people? Like what is the definition of franchising and why would someone want to franchise their business?
So I think we were talking about a little bit before. A lot of business owners either know what franchising is and think it's unattainable for a number of reasons, or two, they maybe just don't even think about it. You know, it's not even in their list of options of ways that they could grow their model. But at a very basic level, what a franchise is creating a package, a business model, a system, and a brand, and offering that to people that would like to own a business and like to get into a business model for a fee. And a franchisee pays a franchise fee to the franchisor. In this case, you are the franchisor, but this could be anyone who has a small business who's trying to grow it. Usually that fee is somewhere between $25,000 to $50,000, and that fee is paid to get access to that intellectual property. And when the franchisee pays it, the franchisor gives them the use of the trademark, the brand. They train them, they give them an operating system, they give them their know-how, their manuals, their support. It's this package to help them get up and running and get into business quicker, faster, easier, more efficiently. And then the franchisee pays a percentage of the revenue back to the franchisor on an ongoing basis. If it's done right, and there's a lot of things that have to be done right, we'll talk through some of that stuff too, but if it's done right, it's this phenomenal combination of a vested owner operator who has passion, they have skin in the game, they've got drive, they've got all this energy that an owner has. And you've got a franchisor that leverages buying power, that has brand recognition, that's pulling input from different people in the system, and everyone wins. It's this mutually beneficial relationship. The brand grows, the franchisee owns a business now and has an asset that's growing, and it can work beautifully. They don't all go perfectly, and lots of things that the franchisor can or either does or doesn't do, which have an impact on that and the franchisee. One of the things that I think you've done really well in the first year of franchising is selecting the right people. And I've done this for 25 years. I've seen a lot of good and bad. You can have the best training system in the world. You can have the best brand. You can do everything right. If the owner is not the right person and isn't willing to step up and work it and doesn't bring the right skill set, capital, all the things that are needed, it's not going to go. So it starts with selecting the right people, qualifying the franchisee, asking questions, not taking a check from someone if they're not the right fit. You got to say no. Treat these people almost like you're hiring a manager who's going to come in and run a company on location for you. You wouldn't hire the first person who walked in. You would qualify them. You'd ask a lot of questions, get to know them. That's generally how I recommend you approach franchise sales as well. Let's make sure they're the right fit before we award the opportunity for them to be a part of our brand.
Yeah, I think that's where we're at now. That's one of the lessons that we had. We didn't have a lot of pain points, you know, honestly, like you kind of identified. We had some people that we brought together to the table that were licensees, and then they transitioned into franchisees, and they were all people that checked the boxes we needed checked, and they aligned with our core values. And that's why we keep them really simple. It's love others, spread light, work hard, and me and Destiny say it all the time. It's like, hey, if we get done meeting with a potential franchisee, and if we say, hey, would we hang out with them outside of business? Like, if they didn't have no money, would we want to go to dinner with them? And if the answer is yes, we typically do the deal. But that's a lot of no's. You know what I mean? Because if I've learned early on in my life, and I've had a lot of, hard experiences up until this point, and I think that I learned money is not everything. I actually am very thankful that when I was almost in my 30s, I lost everything that I had, anything financially, because I went down the wrong path. And what I learned from that experience is it's rebuildable. You know what I mean? As long as I have, the ability to wake up, then I have the ability to go remake this money. So it's not a money thing for us. It's really about, like, who do we want to sit down with? Who do we want to do business with? Who do we want to sign a contract and say, hey, we're partners for the next 5 to 10 years, and that gauge has been something that has been super beneficial for us picking the right people.
Well, and we mentioned it earlier too in one of our conversations about the mindset, and that there's definitely two distinct mindsets of people in general, but definitely entrepreneurs. And on one end of that spectrum, you've got someone who has a scarcity mindset, and they look at it like the pie is only this big, and if you're eating a piece of that pie, then that's less pie for me, and it just creates this kind of friction and anger and jealousy and all that kind of stuff. On the other side of that equation, you've got people who look at things from an abundance perspective. The pie is never ending. It's way bigger than any one of us could possibly eat too much of that pie. Go out there and get it. Be willing to share information. Talk to people with a standpoint of abundance, and look to help people. Those are the kind of people that I've found take franchise models forward. They are generous with their time, and this, heck, man, we're on a podcast right now that you do as one of a whole bunch of things that you do to share information and experience and things that you've gone through, and people don't have to pay for this. They can learn from you. They can hear about you and get opportunities to know more about you. That's the kind of person that I've found takes a franchise model or just their company, period, into growth mode. And way back when, I've worked with so many different types of companies. One of my first clients was a restoration company that did water, fire, mold remediation. If your basement flooded. And this guy was a hilarious entrepreneur. Like, talk about abundance. He saw nothing negative in anything he looked at. It was all positive. Like, what's the opportunity? He was in business 6 months. His first year, he did about 650,000 in sales. Ran the thing out of his home, out of his basement. We franchised the model. He worked through all the steps. In the end, he ended up selling 330 franchises. He sold the whole company for 250 million to a private equity firm. About 9 years later, about 2 years after we started with him, we franchised another water, fire, mold remediation company. These guys, his two brothers, had been in business for 35 years. They did 15 million a year in sales. They had 220 employees. On paper, they were better at every single part of the restoration industry than the other guy. Like, not even close. Different stratosphere. They sold one franchise and made the decision, we can make more money by hiring two more employees and putting two more trucks on the road. We're going to stop doing this. Now, they're still successful. They're still operating a big business, but I would venture to guess their valuation might top out at 30 or $40 million. The one big difference was vision, mindset, and where they saw that business going. That they were doing well enough. There wasn't enough motivation to change it. They were happy being in the restoration business. The other guy, the one who sold out, he did not want to be in the restoration business. He wanted to be a coach and a mentor and help other people learn how to run that business. And that ultimately is what helped make him successful above and beyond any like textbook business reasons. He just saw it and didn't take his foot off the gas.
I love that because I can validate it 100%. what I see is the more that I give back and give other people freely, then the more that comes to me. It's crazy how that works. And what's even crazier is people say it. It's not rocket science. It's not some hidden secret. It's like, hey, when you help others, then good things happen to you, right? It's almost like karma, energy, whatever you want to call it. And people are like, oh no, that's not true. You know what I mean? Or don't think it applies to them or their life. But man, when you actually start walking that out, it's like, holy cow, this deal just came through. This person just, you know what I mean, partnered with me. You know what I mean? It's crazy. And then you hear other stories just like that. It's like, I got the cheat code and everyone knows it. Why is not more people doing this?
There's a good book, How to Make Friends and Influence People. I think it's Dale Carnegie, but it's an old book. But and that's the whole principle of it. Like he interviewed an old billionaire. I think it was Andrew Carnegie, the steel billionaire, and they asked him, "How'd you get to become a billionaire?" He goes, "Well, I made 100 people millionaires, and that helped me get to this point of being a billionaire." And the whole it's a great book. I mean, a lot of good pieces in it. But the other thing that I think you and Destiny have done and are really skilled at, and is one of the big differentiators in brands that I've seen go or not go, is an understanding and a commitment to marketing and promoting the brand. And in today's day and age, a big chunk of that is social media and knowing how to position on social media, creating good content, investing the time, energy, and money into doing that the right way. Not only does it promote the brand so that we get more consumers in buying the product or service, but it absolutely plays a big role in selling the franchise too. The more people see, hear, get to know us, the more comfortable they get with the brand, and eventually the chances of them making an investment and choosing to buy a business of us goes way up. So that's one thing that I would definitely recommend to any entrepreneur. I'm mid 40s, and I think like many people my age or older, it's like I didn't get it. I'm still trying to figure out how to Facebook change their name to Meta, and still not trying to figure these things out. But now social media is an absolute business weapon. It's not a fun, nice thing to do that you go on to see what your high school girlfriend's up to now. It's like this is a business tool. You have to be using it, or you're missing a huge opportunity. But it doesn't end there. It's your look, your logo, your brand, your signage, all of your marketing and presentation. It's got to be lights out. And if you want to take your brand to the next level, don't have your kid design your website on GoDaddy at home. Spend the money, invest in it, make sure you do it the right way, because people are going to look at that and they're going to make a decision on who you are as a company. And it does pay dividends to put the money and time and effort into it.
Yeah, we get so many people that reach out to us because we have become a staple piece of resource, or I guess somebody who is respected in the mobile coffee industry, because we've put so much education and resources out to that community. And people come to us and are like, how do you create a successful mobile coffee business? And first thing that I tell them is marketing. Marketing is a game. You have to learn how to master the game. And every time that you've mastered a certain level, there's a new level that you need to get to. If you think about the evolution of marketing, I mean, basically what we start out with newspapers and radio, billboards, and now it's social media, and we're all competing for eyeballs, right? Attention. How do we get the attention of our customers? And you have to become masters at the marketing game. I don't care what you're selling, what your business is, you have to be a master marketer to actually be somebody who is competing at a high level. 1000%.
So true. The One of the things I think that might be interesting for anyone who's looking at franchising is the one of the questions that comes up, and as an entrepreneur, I think it's hard to understand why anyone would buy a franchise at all. Um, and, and I think there's two parts to it. One is that as an entrepreneur, I've found from doing this a long time, it's easy to downplay the value that you can offer someone and the depth and quality of the information that from doing it and from learning it and from being in the business. That's one thing that I find in talking with an entrepreneur about this. I kind of have to pep them up. It's like, man, you've done a ton here. Like you realize that maybe 1 out of 20, shoot, not even that, 4%, 5% of every small business in America that started is still alive after 5 years. That means 95% didn't make it. So the fact that you're here after any amount of time is a huge kudos, a huge accomplishment, and that's on top of every other thing that you might have done in the business, increasing sales, managing expenses, all those things. It's an absolute amazing accomplishment to start any business. Period. And what you know and what you've learned in doing that, it's worth a fortune because now someone who's trying to get into business for themselves, and I think every entrepreneur probably has heard this from going out to dinner with other people and hanging out with other people. Most people really respect entrepreneurs. They appreciate the risk they've taken. They are just impressed and maybe jealous, of what they've been able to do and the fact that they own their own thing. When someone goes to start their own business, it is worth a lot financially and emotionally and everything else to have someone like an Eric and Destiny behind them saying, hey, do this. Don't do that. That didn't work. Do this. This works. That's the whole idea of a franchise model. And the average person doesn't have the tolerance for risk that an entrepreneur has, where an entrepreneur kind of jumps in and figures it out. Most people would much prefer to have a plan, much prefer to have a proven model and a system and the support that comes with a franchise relationship. And the numbers don't lie. I mean, you look at the statistics on the franchise side, the success rate is closer to like 87, 88%. I mentioned earlier, on the new business side, it's like 5%. So it's a completely inverse relationship because they have an Eric and Destiny behind them, helping them with all the key business decisions, supporting them in marketing and management and operations and finance and all that kind of stuff. So in the case of an entrepreneur looking at should they franchise and who's going to buy this thing, there's a lot of people out there, and you've gone to the shows now and met all these people and sold franchises and experienced it. So I'm sure that's one of the things you've recognized too from becoming a franchisor.
Yeah, we get to, regularly do life with all of our franchisees, and we get to come together and share in those experiences. And what I like to tell people that's kind of coming on, it's like, hey, yeah, you have all of the resources available to you from me and Destiny, but you also have this whole network of other franchisees that are doing this same business model. And what I've learned is we all kind of become family, and we're working together, collaborating with each other to make sure that everyone is successful. So you don't just get our information and expertise and network, but you also get all of the information and expertise from our other franchisees, which is a really awesome, caveat to becoming a part of that franchise system.
Yeah, it well, and I think if you as the franchisor, again going back to some of the things that I've seen in franchise systems that go and grow and really work, the franchisor that is a good communicator, a good listener, takes feedback, takes criticism, and uses that to help improve the system. Those make great franchises. They make great franchise leaders. The franchisees feel heard. The system improves because now you have this whole team of people that are giving feedback and input on how to make this better. That works, and some of it's kind of just human nature too, where if you're barking orders and trying to dictate to people like a dictator, people aren't going to stick around that long. They're not going to be happy. They're not going to tell their friends and family to join. But when you've created a culture of that feels like a family, and there's great communication back and forth, and everyone's trying to help each other, that abundance mentality and mindset, then these things can work great. They can be an awesome combination of efforts and energy and enthusiasm, where everybody is kind of rowing the boat in the same way, in the same direction.
Yeah, I think that that's kind of been one of the contributing factors to our success as well is the network that we need, because we all need to be fed. You know what I mean? It's not like you give, and then you can't be fed. You have to continuously try to evolve, grow, learn. And that's exactly what me and Destiny do as leaders. I mean, that's why we have FMS as part of our team members. We have other mentors. We're part of masterminds. It's because we understand the value of continuing our education. That way we can pour into our system and franchisees. So I love that, and you back up a few years ago, I was like, man, I'll do everything on my own. I don't need nobody's help. And what I realized is that was a limiting mindset that did not allow me to evolve, grow. And the more that I learn and I get around these other people, honestly, like I'll be in a mastermind and these people are multi-millionaires. And I'm looking at this dude and I'm like, man, I can communicate better than this dude. I'm smarter than this dude. I look better than this dude, and it's just like a validation, Peter. And I used to put them on this high pedestal where it's kind of like, it was unattainable. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But by getting inside these networks, finding partners, finding people that I can learn and grow from just allows me to be a better leader.
And I think that goes back to what we were talking about, just that abundance mentality and always being open to looking at hey, there could be opportunities here that I don't know about or I don't know how they work and listening, learning and then taking that feedback. And again, going back to the beginning part, I think a lot of us have an idea what a franchise is. We've eaten hamburgers and bought coffee and everything else from different franchise models. But as a business owner, I think a lot of business owners have not really considered it and given it a hard look. And this speaks to your mentality in looking at the market and talking to enough people to figure out that, hey, there is an opportunity here. Coffee is one of those segments, though, too, where there's enough big brands that are franchised to where it probably you saw enough of it where it's like, hey, we could look at this channel. But I mean, we have franchised almost every single industry you could think of. I don't know that there's too many that we haven't worked in. Um, Heck, man, we had a franchise of a lady who puts goats in a yard, and the goats eat all the trees and bushes. So it's like
No
organic
way.
goat landscaping. Um, and another guy who it was like an entertainment park where you drove tractors around and played like basketball with the forklifts, and I mean, any idea just about, as long as there's a good system, as long as we understand the financial modeling of it, um, and have something that has a good brand, and we're willing to accept the fact that as the entrepreneur, the business doesn't work just because of us, that we're not the only one who can do it. We can teach this, we can delegate it. That's another part of it. I think where you've, as an entrepreneur, some entrepreneurs, it has nothing to do with intelligence. They're brilliant in their own right, but they cannot get themselves out of the kitchen. They're just completely stuck in there. And part of it is a mentality like no one else does as well as I can. I'm the best. I'm the only one who can make this pizza. 99 out of 100 times, that's not true.
Right.
We as entrepreneurs can teach and train and show someone else how to do this. And not only for franchising, but just for growing our own business. Until we get our arms around that, you're going to be your biggest bottleneck in your own business growth. You're not going to grow because you're the one holding up the train. Where as soon as you start to realize, hey, I can teach this, there is a system here. I'm not the only one. I'm not the Albert Einstein of whatever I do. I can teach and train and show someone else how to do it. Then the business has the opportunity to grow. And franchising is kind of the furthest degree of delegation and teaching others and scaling it. So
So whenever someone has a business and they're looking to grow it, franchising is a tool that allows them to help them do that. Besides the things that you just now mentioned, is there other factors that they need to make sure that they have in place before looking at franchising? How long they've been in business? Are they profitable? For how long? Those type of things.
good question. And there's definitely some textbook answers to it. I would usually say you should be in business for 3 years or more. Have a little bit of a track record. You've been through a couple of seasons, so you know how the business works. You understand the the financial modeling of it. Um, I've had others that haven't had 3 years though, so I mean it's not always that. If you have something that's completely different, totally unique, and you're a first mover in your market, might not need 3 years. We've had some that franchised year one. They just had something that was that innovative and they saw the market coming. But generally speaking, I'd say 3 years in business. We definitely need to have some financial proof. And what I mean by that is we have to have done business to a point where we can show our financial model and have enough of a presentation to get people feeling comfortable investing in our system. And and that it depends on the business. So the one of the real beauties of what you've done with Grit and Grind and the mobile model is to build out a fixed location retail model. You're looking at a much bigger investment. You've got construction, signage, equipment, all the stuff that goes into it. When you have a mobile model, your investment range comes down. Now it's easier to show someone how they get a return on that investment over a shorter time period, where the higher investment is going to take you longer usually to get that money back. So what I would say from a numbers perspective is if it's a lower investment business, a service model, a mobile model, something that doesn't have a huge upfront cost to it, we probably want to show people how they can get a return on that money in like 2 to 3 years. Whatever it takes to open that business up, we want to show them how to get all that money back in 2 to 3 years. The sooner the better, but 2 to 3 years would be the time frame. If it's a traditional brick and mortar business and they're building out a space and all that kind of stuff, probably five to seven would be the max. Um, and the way that I would figure that out is look at your profitability, take the numbers from last year. Let's say the business cost me 200,000 to open it, and last year I netted $100,000. That means it takes me 2 years to show a return on investment. 100,000 for 2 years. That's the kind of math that I would look at. And if we're not hitting those numbers, generally speaking, probably going to be tough to get people to invest in this and buy in with us. The other thing that I would make sure you have tight is make sure you have your brand nailed down. The first thing I would look at is, have you trademarked it? Do you know if the trademark's available? And it is heartbreaking for me and certainly for the entrepreneur when I'll help someone kind of look at franchising. Well, hey, great business, man. You've got an awesome story. You've got a great track record, the financials. I'm sorry to say McDonald's is taken. You can't use that name. Somebody else has got it. And it's like, man, if you just did the search, go to the trademark website, run a search, or if you want to hire a trademark lawyer, it's worth it because every day that goes along and you work hard to get people to know your brand and trust your brand, let's make sure you can protect it and you can own it. And you can usually figure that out pretty quick. Um, and many times we've gone through this or started to talk to people, and it's like we got to make a change. We have to adjust the name, which I hate doing. But you do want to be able to own it and protect it because each day that goes forward, and particularly if you franchise it, that brand becomes incredibly valuable. You don't want to have somebody else come in and take it from you just because you haven't trademarked it.
Yeah, I love that because, for the mobile coffee entrepreneurs group that we're a part of in Facebook, I help all of these people and they'll send us questions and it's, them getting started and it's probably like their first business. And you can kind of see the ones who have done that due diligence piece and they've actually like looked at it. And then the ones that, there is 100 rise and grind coffee shops. You know what I mean? All of them using the same name. I'm like, yeah, that's great if you have one location and it's profitable, but I mean, it's not going to go further than that, right?
Yeah.
Because of the due diligence piece on the name and being able to own that. When people ask us, they're like, hey, when you're looking at franchising, what do I need to do or some tips? We hit on a lot of the things that you hit on, but two of the other ones, like, I'm like, can you teach somebody? Like, do you have the ability? Do you have an SOP? Do you have a written procedure how to run the business? Because I get it, man. You can make a caramel latte and it tastes amazing, but can you teach somebody else how to do it? You know what I mean? Because that's the whole process here. We're giving somebody a system to where they can teach people. If they choose to be in there making those coffee drinks, great. That's what they choose to do. However, they are not required to do it. They do not have to be in that business doing it. And if you don't want to be in that business or have to, then you need to have some type of, playbook that other people can follow.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. 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 I mean, that's really what it comes down to. When you're selling a franchise, you're selling the package, you're selling the know-how. And it's one thing to teach an employee, because if you hire a barista, then that's what they're going to be doing. They're making the product, making the beverage, making the lattes. When you sell a franchise, you're teaching someone how to become a business owner. So it's every single thing that we do. It's insurance, it's marketing, it's permitting, it's hiring, it's firing, it's all the things that make up for someone who's going to own and operate this business. So it's really comprehensive, and you do need to take the time and energy. That's one of the things that FMS can help with, but you do need to take the time and energy to get everything that you know down on paper, organized, and into a format that you can teach someone and train someone. Um, One of the things I thought that might be good just to cover too was some of the reasons why companies franchise, and why they look at this vehicle and path for growth. The first reason would be capital. And heck, man, if you and Destiny had unlimited funds and were sitting on a bank account of $50 million, you might have just said, hey, you know what? We're going to go out there and open up all these grit and grinds ourselves and hire people, and just invest in each one of the locations as company-owned locations. Most of us don't have that much money in the account, or we're building our business, we're getting it started, and heck, even if we do, it's just hard to make the numbers work if you're funding everything yourself. And we've all heard that saying, that it's good to find ways to use other people's money to grow, and franchising is essentially that. We're giving independent business owners the opportunity to invest in our business and infuse capital into the business without sharing equity. And that's the one big asterisk that changes this significantly, because you could go out and get an investor, someone who gives you money, and you give them a part ownership in the business. The problem with that is, once you do that, you've let someone into the kitchen, so to speak, and they can now tell you how to run the business. You are equal partners regardless of how you break up equity. The only way to solve a dispute when both people have percentage ownership, decision-making power in that business, is through some complicated litigation. This model lets the franchisee benefit from your system, your brand, your know-how. They put money into the business both by paying you and investing in the business, and you don't give them any equity in the mothership. The second big reason, and particularly since COVID, it might even be a bigger reason than the money part, is anyone in business has had a tough go with labor. Since COVID. I think it's getting better. I think we're seeing that come around now, but franchising helps you manage and mitigate the issues of finding, keeping, and managing good people. When we sell a franchise to someone, they become, in most cases, an owner operator. And now you have a vested owner operator who has money in the business. They've got skin in the game. They run it with the passion and enthusiasm and energy that we do as owners. You don't have to watch over that business. They have their own separate EIN and entity. All the employees are tied to them, not to you. They are focused on that day-to-day operation. You coach, teach, and focus on big picture strategic initiatives. It allows you to scale because you don't get sucked into the operations, like the entrepreneur I was talking about before, who spends their whole life in the kitchen. The third reason that companies do this is franchising gives you a vehicle to scale quickly. And I think it would be hard to find another business model, another vehicle that you can use to grow a business faster and more efficiently than you can with franchising. One of the brands that I worked with early on was Jimmy John's, from the first 7 units. And we had a couple of years where we opened up 150, up to 250 restaurants. You try to fathom what it would take to do 200 restaurants company owned, signing 200 leases, 200 construction permits, 200 contractors, 200 restaurants times 50 employees. I mean, all these things become insurmountable. You just couldn't do it. Instead, on the franchise model, as the franchisor, your job is the teacher, the coach, the mentor. The franchisee is taking on that local ownership responsibility, and that allows you as the brand to open up a lot of locations quickly in many different markets. And a lot of these franchise systems get incredible valuations. Jersey Mike's just sold for $9 billion. A lot of brands like that where you hear these, and the valuation on a franchise company usually is around 20 times your earnings. And what that means is when you go to sell your business at some point, this is one of the traps of entrepreneurship. And I think as a small business owner, you don't even think about it until you're in business for a little while. And then it's like, wait a minute, how am I going to get out of this? Like, I'm not. I'm in it forever. And then I either just die and the business goes away, or at the end of the day, I go to sell it and it's not worth that much because I'm in it too much. I'm still grinding it, no pun intended. I'm still
Yeah.
in the operation every day. So it usually when you go to sell a company owned business that you run in and work, you might get 2.5 times your earnings. So if you net $100,000 a year, that means your business is worth 200, maybe 250,000. And not to say there's anything wrong with that, but usually for what we've put into it, the effort, the blood, sweat, and tears, it's like, man, that's not worth it. Not for everything I've done in here and everything I put into it. In the franchise model, that ratio goes up to 20 times. So that same $100,000, say we're doing the exact same amount of money, but it's coming in from franchise revenue, repeatable royalties, all the things that are coming in from franchisees. You take that $100,000 times 20, that's a $2 million valuation. We get that $100,000 to $1 million, it's a $20 million valuation. The reason the ratio is so much higher is because you, as the franchisor, have proven it's not you that makes this work. It's not the talent of the entrepreneur. There's a system. It's duplicatable. It's transferable. Now that becomes worth more to a new owner. That's why you hear private equity and big investor groups buying up franchise brands, um, and it does creates an exit strategy for you as the entrepreneur. So that's one of the other reasons why I'd say it's worth looking at the franchise path too.
Yeah, it's been a game changer for us in our business. So anybody out there, it doesn't matter what kind of business you have. I mean, a home service business, a restaurant, whatever it is, if you are looking at franchising, I can tell you through our experience with Grit and Grind Coffee, doing business with FMS over the past year and a half, it's been a great experience. And we have had nothing but positive things to say about them. So if you're looking at that, definitely encourage you to reach out to FMS, Chris and his team. Where do they do that at, Chris?
You can go directly to our website at www.fmsfranchise.com, or feel free to call me on my cell phone. Always love talking with entrepreneurs. My cell phone is 770-519-3910. Happy to talk with anyone who just has questions and would like to look at the franchise model. Love to meet new entrepreneurs too.
Yeah, definitely. And if you do reach out to them, let them know that you got sent by Grit and Grind Coffee. I think they got a really cool package that we're putting together for all of our listeners. So let them know that you found them here. So, all right. Well, Chris, I appreciate you being here for our audience. As always, no grit, no pearl. We'll see you next time.